from Joe, and then Fern.
I don't think I was next. I think there were a couple people in front of me.
Yeah, well, those are expressions of interest, Albertia and
Uh,
so
okay.
you're up.
Well, thanks, and thanks for letting me just to jump in here. You know, I'm obviously with the city, and excited that you guys are interested in participating. I'd say that I think what Brian laid out as far as having a structure and a format, you know, is important. I also just want to throw out there that, you know, I think the positive feedback that the city has gotten on our East Oakland TCC project, and of course that's an implementation grant, so it's a little bit different. But I think where we get a lot of positive impact and a lot of community engagement in fighting climate change and improving health equity outcomes in neighborhoods is through having really tangible projects that are embedded in the grant application. So, you know, planting trees, you know, our work with their scraper bikes, you know, to help them, you know, do more to promote, you know, safe biking routes and opportunities in the community. Like, I just, you know, I'm hoping that there'll be some components to the grant that'll be less cerebral and more action oriented to engage a greater portion of the community to get behind this work. And so I'll say that I think that everything on here is important. I know there's a subcommittee that's been working on this, but I'm all about action to get more of the community involved.
Great, thanks, Joe. So right now we've got Fern, David, and Albertia who are interested in participating in the work group. Is that still correct?
Sorry, just to clarify, no, I did have a question, but I think looking back at some previous slides, that's my questions answered. I fear committing myself at this moment.
Okay, so we'll keep you updated. So we've got David and Albertia.
Fern, we can include you on invites and then you can just not come to meetings if you're too busy. Like, if you want to kind of keep tabs on what's happening, I'm, you know, offering.
It sounds like you're.
It sounds
like you're on the fence. I'm just waiting for you, Fern. Yes. Okay.
No, I think I should, like, I don't want to overcommit, but like, if there are obviously specific things that you think that I or my colleague at EDF or EDF has sort of unique things to offer, please let us know. But I feel like having done a lot of meetings where I send out invites for people who don't turn up, I don't want to do that to you.
No worries. Well, I think if we do have a section on the Health Equity Advisory Committee, we'll connect with you all on that.
And we do have a few more minutes. So let me just ask, like, these two questions. Does the steering committee recognize and agree on the information analysis gap, or does anybody disagree with the approach that the group has taken? Good. And do any strategy leads want or need resources to help advance your work? No? Okay. Great.
I have a question. Put me in the queue.
Okay. Ms. Margaret, you're up.
I need, well, with this grant, we need some kind of resources. And I'm asking this question to the Bay Area quality staff. How could they be engaged?
Anybody from the district want to take that?
Hi, Ms. Margaret.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we can certainly look at the proposal. I think, what I'm kind of not wanting to do is put too much lens of feasibility and what we can do today. And so, like, I'm happy to see the group really, kind of embracing a very holistic approach, it sounds like. But we could definitely weigh in. And I think that, should the grant be funded, definitely we would want to have some of the other air district divisions involved. Because many of the strategies, around 30, are actually air district strategies, and they have engineering divisions that lead them. They have sort of rules development divisions that lead them. They have compliance and enforcement divisions. So there's like very, they're very specific. And so so from what I'm wondering is, would we want to kind of contain that the strategies in some way, like focus on certain strategies? Or, do we really want to evaluate all 89 of them, because they really span the gamut? I mean, there's a lot of.
Well, if we could, to me, if we could separate out those who are those air quality, if their air quality could take the first draft of doing that, that was a very good beginning. That would be a good beginning.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely support, and I'm happy to weigh in and circle back with the district.
But that's not the question. The question was there going to be a staff person? We got Diana here, got you here, and I don't know who else is here. We'll take the first crack at separating out, making a list, our draft, our spreadsheet of taking out the air quality strategies to separate them out.
Yeah, we have that. Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, great. Lily, then Brian, and we've got just about 7-8 minutes.
Just a suggestion, as earlier today, I met with Bay Area Air Quality Management staff for the Richmond San Pablo community for their CERT measure. There is some overlap, not yet clear exactly how much overlap, but some health strategy discussion was happening with other Bay Area staff like Judith Catino. And anyway, the point of it is maybe if there is a way for better coordination between the Air District, CARB, OCAP, and whoever else needs to be involved, and I'm certainly willing to participate. To Ms. Margaret's point, maybe we can see where there is common health equity measures that need addressing, and then we can work together that way.
Great, thanks. Brian?
Yeah, I think one way to look at this is we have a metric for the things that CARB and the port and the district do. It's generally how many dollars does it take to reduce a ton of emissions. It's a very simple mathematical thing. It's complicated to do it, but it's a simple mathematical equation, right? It's a metric, dollars per ton. There is no such metric in health, for example, health equity. If you reduce 20 tons of black carbon in West Oakland, is there a measurement of whether that's are people healthier now? It's a very difficult question, and it hasn't been really addressed. If we change a truck route and the trucks don't go down your street anymore, as opposed to as opposed to planting trees over in someone else's neighborhood, I mean, these are completely different things. But we're assuming they have both equity and health value. But we have no way of saying this one's worth 50 points and that one's worth 48 points. This is, in many ways, our plan went far beyond the things that the air regulators like CARB and the Air District already do. When we look at our plan and it has things like changing business practices, is that a good thing? Is that worth the money? We don't have any way to say it. We're just assuming these are all good things because we all like the things we put into the plan. Now, I don't know if we can achieve this. It's a very complicated thing to look at. But part of this grant would be to bring people together to look at this and see if there's a way to find a thing. Can we find a way to measure equity in the distribution of the resource or to measure equity in the outcome of the strategies? And I think equity is a key thing. It's supposed to be at the center of the work. And of course, no one will really ever give me a direct definition because it's more of a way of thinking. But that's kind of the question that's in front of us. I don't have the answer to the question because that's why we want to get a big grant to bring together lots of folks and talk about it. But when we look at the district and what the district is doing, well, what the district's doing is pretty much very measurable. That's how those programs are written. But two-thirds of our plan is not the district. And so we have to look beyond that. I would hope the district would be involved, helping us to evaluate our approaches, helping us to frame the questions so that they're not too big and too impossible, and perhaps even helping us draft a complicated grant. So those are, both before the submission and after the submission. I would hope the district would be involved because they are the co-leads and our partners, right? And CARB as well, because they're also part of the leadership here.
Okay, so I saw Brent. We're going to take any additional. Brent, you got us started, so we're going to let you finish it. Are there any other comments? Allison?
Hi, thanks. Yeah, just to follow up, forgive me if I didn't hear, is there a due date for the grant?
August 1st.
Okay, thank you for repeating that.
Okay, and Brent, close us out, and then we've got a report back from Beth to do before we move on to the next.
Great. Yeah, thank you. We'd love and welcome everyone's help if they want to support writing it. Sounds like we'd love to have a breakout session with the Air District. One of our real goals too is to advance the modeling and then put together sort of a monitoring plan as well. And to get to one of Joe's questions, I think what we learned in doing the Prescott project, which we took from a really small $25,000 grant, and then that advanced us and gave us time to get to this $1 million grant. I think our goal is to really identify 2 or 3 core projects, infrastructure areas in this grant, so that then they can get advanced to those implementation stages. So things coming out of this strategy would basically get pushed into implementation.
All right, so we ready to wrap on this one? Great. All right, so let's move to Beth. Beth has a little feedback from.
Well, we are, sorry, can you all see my slides? Oh, I need to go to present mode. Slideshow. So for those of you who were here last month, and oh no, Zoom is quitting again. I'm having issues. I might need you to, yeah. So we did breakout groups on goal 8 and 10 of the environmental justice element of the general plan. Is my screen not being shared anymore? Can you pull it up, Randolph?
Sure. Can you hit stop?
So sorry, my Zoom keeps quitting. If you can pull up the slides, Randolph, I don't want them to keep shutting down, but we did a little summary of the feedback from you all in the breakout group, so you can find the original Miro board here. I'm going to put the links in the chat for you all. And I have a even shorter summary, right? Oh, good. Go to the next slide, Randolph. And then I just put those links in the chat. So one more slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so goal 8 was foster meaningful civic engagement, support community power and capacity building. And let me pause by saying that all of this feedback you all gave us, we're going to be compiling into a comment letter that will be sent out by June 22nd on behalf of the WOCAP steering committee. So that's what this is all going to be used for, in addition to whatever we learn from you all tonight. So some of the feedback we got was that we want to see more specific actions for each policy. So right now there's a set of policies and a set of actions, but they're not necessarily talking to each other. We want to go back and to the people involved kind of throughout implementation, requests for more accessible language in both policy and outreach materials. The city should be prioritizing both digital and analog engagement. Overall, for both goals, people wanted the language strengthened. We want to see AB 617 consultation made more official, so writing policies about that so that community members can oversee things in the general plan related to the WOCAP and overall. One of the key themes was kind of early and often communication, community consultation, addressing any barriers that are preventing community organizations from partnering with the city on things, exploring community veto power. The state and CARB were offering to support some of the multilingual engagement and conducting trainings for city staff on both community engagement and environmental justice. That was mentioned a few times, and then going to where people are already meeting. So that was goal 8, and then goal 10, next slide, great. So, so having measurable and specific actions for each of the policies was brought up. Having EJ bodies kind of oversee the implementation of the whole plan, of the whole EJ element, looking into partnering with the air district on air monitoring programs in specific EJ neighborhoods. The feedback was that mostly the policies and actions felt very non-committal, and people want to see more targets, more accountability, more teeth. A few people commented to look at the ECAP, that's the Equitable Climate Action Plan that the city already wrote, that citizen groups are mentioned in the elements, and or Climate Action Network is mentioned, and they want to see a similar policy written in the EJ element. Add timelines for implementation, and interested in seeing how the EJ community's indices and the indicators in the community profile report could be tracked over time. Same with the racial equity impact assessment. People want to see budgeting, if there's could be a % of the budget allocated specifically for EJ communities, a la Justice 40 at the federal level, maybe. And let's see, there was a bunch of protocols that one of the group came up with, which I thought was great. So kind of evaluation and transparency measures, reaching out to community groups prior to implementation to make sure that's what they still want, establishing the norm that the air district leadership's responsibilities include working towards environmental justice, and then tie funding requirements to check back with community. So that was a summary, but then you can see every single comment that all of you folks gave in the 2 links I put in the chat.
Great, thanks. You want to roll right into?
Yes, so yes, so the let me move the screen over here so I can see this better. Okay, so go to the next slide. The city has out these 3 documents right now for public review. So that's the EJ element, the safety element, and the racial equity impact assessment, which assesses these two elements. All interesting reads. We're focusing mostly on the EJ element. Next slide. And the goal is that, like I said before, we're submitting our comment letter by June 22nd. So tonight we want to gather your local knowledge and lived experience about specific environmental injustices in West Oakland, since while there are a lot of wonderful policies in the EJ element right now, it does not get into the specifics. You can tell that the plan was written by people that don't know the EJ communities really well inside and out, and we want to make sure that that local knowledge is infused into these policies. We also identified a number of gaps, policy gaps in the WOCAP related policies in the EJ element. So we have an activity for folks who want to get into the weeds of policies a little more to help fill in some of those gaps. Next slide. So we'll have 3 small groups. One group will be mapping EJ issues in West Oakland, and the second will be addressing those policy gaps. We'll then go into a large group where we'll share, but then also kind of continue the conversation in the large group so that the 2 groups can build off of each other's work. Next slide. This is what our Miro board will look like. And maybe Meet or someone can put the link in the chat. So you can see we'll have the mapping group 1, and you're going to get to choose which group you want to go to. Group 2 will be looking at land use policy gaps, and group 3 will be looking at port, truck, freight, and freeway policy gaps. And within those, you'll choose what you want to focus on. You don't need to get through everything. If we need it, we'll have an overflow mapping group as well. Next slide. That's weird. Oh, there we go. Next slide again. So in the mapping group, there's the link to the board, which has everything. So there's instructions at the top. There's these cute little icons that mean different things. Things like, you know, truck impacts, speeds, visual blight, noise, odors. So you can kind of move these icons around onto the map and then write little sticky notes, either paste the sticky notes on the map or keep them in this little table that I have to add specifics. And with that, we will kind of try and translate that into policy recommendations. Next slide. So this is what the map looks like. Just a quick overview so you can see it has a yellow outline for our WOCAP boundaries. The Port of Oakland is shaded in this orangish color. The magenta lines are the truck routes. The blue lines are where trucks are prohibited. And then these orange dots on the map have labels, and they're kind of some of the truck related businesses that might help orient folks in the map. And then there's also a number of blue dots on the map, which are kind of other truck related businesses. So you can see kind of where those concentrate in the area. Next slide. So for the instructions for this one, you'll be kind of, choose this group if you know West Oakland, if you feel comfortable with the geography and what's in West Oakland. So if you're someone who is there a lot, you live there, you work there, this is a great group for you to attend. Think about what are some of the environmental challenges that impact your quality of life, health, and safety. Think about your senses, and then use the icons to mark the things on the map. The blue sticky notes can add detail about the issues you identify. And then on your own or as a group, everyone can use these. We can brainstorm potential solutions with the pink sticky notes. And then you can write additional policy and action ideas with the green ones. And honestly, if you don't get the colors right, like if you move the colors around, it's fine. We're still gonna know what you mean. So no worries there. Miss Margaret, I see your hand.
Yes, I will, through the facilitator, I would like to make sure that at least one person from West Oakland is at the 4 breakouts.
Okay.
Those of us who lived in West Oakland.
Hmm. Okay, we'll sort out how to do that because I don't know where everybody lives,
Well,
but we'll figure that out. We're gonna get the
I know 4 people. I know 4 people live in West Oakland off the top of my head.
gotcha,
5 if Jimmy is here.
gotcha.
Could we circle back for a second, Miss Margaret? We had this conversation before, and one thing we didn't want was to have the group that is focused on local experience to be watered down with a bunch of people, staff, agency staffers, and a bunch of people who don't live there. If we distribute all the local people across all these different groups, then there will be only 1 or 2 people at best in the exercise of local experience. So that's why we were suggesting concentrating the local residents in that part of it. And then the other groups are more technical in various ways, and more technical staff people will have a much more useful contribution. That's why we planned it the way we did. Now, if you want to change it, we can, but I just wanted to know why we did it.
I'll take it back. I take it back. Drop it.
Okay, thank you.
okay. So feel free to choose any group you want to be in. And hopefully, Brian and Miss Margaret, you can maybe join a policy group, and Jimmy is also here. So, okay, next slide. So this is just like to help you get in the mindset. We thought it would be helpful to like think about photos, or show some photos. So, in a photo like this is the, a fire going on. Like, you can think about the odors, the hazards to health, the kind of smoke. Next slide. I'm just going to go through these quickly because I want to get us into groups. Think about the residential streets in West Oakland. Like, this icon means we need more trees. Next slide. Here's, this area you might say has some visual blight, some odors, might be some safety hazards. Next slide. Here you might have issues with truck impacts and speeds. Oh, I see Fern. I'll go to the mural board soon and help. I'm sorry that you're having trouble seeing. Yeah, so here's some more. Next slide. We're going to go into this is the cement plant. Thank you, Julia, for putting that instructions in. Next slide. Okay, so that's the mapping. The other 2 groups will look at policy. Next slide. So just a reminder that the city's general plan, while very powerful, cannot do everything. And there are some EJ challenges that are outside of total city control. And so, keep that in mind. I think it is still very useful for the city to put in policies talking about how they want to like work with other agencies to do things, even if the city doesn't have full control. Next slide. So in this group, we'll have one group looking at policies related to land use compatibility, and another group related to poor truck freight freeway policies. Next slide. So here's the kind of subtopics, and each group is only going to have to choose 2 topics to discuss. So we have 6 here. Each group will just choose 2. 3 won't get looked at. Or maybe you will if you're super fast. Next slide. So there's a board for each topic. It has relevant policies in the EJ element, related WOCAP strategies for guidance, and then some policy examples from other places. And then we have a few key questions that your facilitator will walk you through, and some sticky notes to take notes on. next slide. Yeah, next slide. So before we let you out, just a reminder, when we come back, the map group will share like a short, 2 or 3 minute share of some key issues they identified and any possible solutions. And then we will invite the full group to discuss and expand upon that work. So it's going to be kind of a back and forth report back, not just people sharing and no conversation. So then the policy groups will do the same thing. We'll invite the mapping group to kind of add on and discuss, expand the work, and think about how the work we did can kind of build off of each other and connect the two. So we're going to try something new. We want to make sure to hear from people who live and work in West Oakland first. And then after those folks have had a chance to speak, we'll invite agency folks and other partners to share. And then we also encourage all the agency folks to, while you're in this activity, think about what's possible without today's constraints limiting your creativity. Okay,
And do we have
any questions?
yeah, Ms. Margaret, is that?
They're laying down.
Oh, okay. And when we go into the breakout rooms, you're gonna have to join. So there's a little breakout icon at the bottom. Oh, it's a little
Does anyone not see the breakout room icon at the bottom?
4 squares. And so
It'll have the name of the breakout room in it.
yeah, you'll go there first and then you'll see the breakout room and then join as you would like to participate. Is that clear?
Is that the whiteboard square you're talking about?
It should be 4 little squares.
4 little squares?
It's not active, Randolph.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it either.
There it is. It's there now.
Now I see.
See?
Oh, okay. Where's
Yeah,
it?
next to the reactions.
Yes, next to the reactions. And then I'll give you some prompts when it is time to come back. Okay, so
Okay, mine said share
excuse
next
me.
to reactions.
You
Yes.
might see 3 little dots that say more,
Yes.
and it might be hidden behind there,
Right.
Okay.
somewhere along that lower toolbar.
And we're gonna try and do about 25 minutes. Okay. So when you're ready, please join.
Randolph, do you care where staff goes, where those of us who are overflow staff end up?
No, there were a number of assignments and then everybody else is gonna,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, I'm still not seeing a box with 4 squares.
Do you see the 3 dots where it says?
Yeah, I hit more, but that's for setting meetings. It says setting meetings and then disconnect audio. And that's all that's in the 3 dots at this point. I
How
have
about,
board, I see apps, share, reactions, chat.
Do you see?
and next to the whiteboards and apps, you don't see that little more button?
Yeah, the more button says meeting settings.
Okay,
Huh.
mine says pause, stop, captions, and then breakout rooms.
I don't have all of that. You're a host.
Mine just said plain breakout rooms. You may be, but I just had to update Zoom here before I entered the
my
meeting.
goodness.
So you might have to just assign, if you're able to,
Okay.
to assign Alverdia to the one
Yeah,
she wants
yeah.
to be in.
Miss Alverdia, do you know where you would like to be?
Maybe a community mapping one would be
Community
best.
mapping. There we go. Okay. Great. Let's see here. Who is unassigned? When?
I'm trying to get into one. Thank you.
Oh, where would you like to be?
I think I want to go to mapping, but maybe I should do land. Oh gosh. I think I've got it now. The breakout room. So I will put myself in one. Thank you.
Okay. Laura, where you headed? Lily?
Do you think it would be more helpful in group 2 or 3? I can go to either one. I'm not in a
Let's,
mapping frame of mind because I don't live in West Oakland.
oh, okay. So Lily would like to be in land use or port?
Do you care which one I go into?
No, I don't.
Okay, I will just choose then. Thanks.
Okay, great. Okay, Laura? Hey, Robert. All right, Brent. We should have a little suggestion box for Miro also. Lock image. That would be helpful.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
All right. How'd it go, everyone? We found we have some suggestions for a Miro along with all of the policy.
Never use it again.
Yes, lock image. That's the
Oh,
one that
God, I forgot to
yes,
do that.
lock image. That's what Miro needs.
It has it, and apologies, I meant to do that and I forgot. That is.
Like ours is still moving. But we're back in our large group, and we're going to try and share information between. We want to just get feedback. We want some intra communication between the groups. So how do we want to start, Beth?
The mapping group can report back first,
Okay.
and your map is now locked. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no problem. Okay, great. So Violet is going to start us off. We had a great time. We were just plugging icons. We were just plopping
That's great.
icons.
Do you want
didn't-
to share your screen so everyone can see the map?
Sure. All right. So again, I'll have Violet hop in. We were just looking at, kind of the area, and because we use we frequent all these areas, we were just trying to kind of pull out, all of the different hazards and offenses. And then I'll go back and kind of put some notes around that also.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Violet Henderson, and I live at 12th and Pine here in West Oakland. And we were able to identify several areas that are upsetting to us, starting with the waste treatment plant of East Bay Mud, also the recycling plant at 11th and Pine. There's railroad tracks that are in our community that are hazardous for pedestrians, automobiles. And there's also metal recyclers in the area that emit smells. And we have heavy truck traffic along Frontage Road. we've identified some areas, a lot of the areas in West Oakland that don't have that don't have trees, or that has trees and that are well maintained. There are also some of the homeless encampments around, what do we say, by Miss
Around-
Margaret's office.
Yeah.
Mhm. Hoover Foster.
Yes, ma'am. And then also there's a multiple sideshows that happen all over West Oakland, including Hoover Foster, the Oakland Army Base, Frontage Road. So we get the noise. And then of course, as the holiday season is arriving, the summer holiday seasons, the loud noises of firecrackers, fireworks. And anybody can jump in, whatever I'm leaving out.
Okay, I would like to add that we should have had an icon for enforcement and landscaping.
Ooh. Okay. Great.
So the landscaping comment
The
was
tree.
around the medians and the, kind of the
Mhm.
sides of the
Mhm.
freeways and that sort of thing, which are hazards. And that's also where a lot of the fires from the encampments start.
Yeah, and over Hoover Foster, the San Pablo corridor there, from where the Greyhound is, at West Grand and San Pablo,
Right here. Mhm.
and down MLK, the underpass under 29th and 30th.
Yeah. Both of
It's
these.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really crazy. And these are areas that have been existing like this for at least 10 years. At least 10 years. And the mayors have come to meetings and nothing has been mitigated. It just gets worse because when the people move from Wood, they are migrating to the other areas where the other unhoused people are. So it looks like a war zone. You wouldn't believe you were in the United States looking at this.
Mhm. Yeah. So really, if we had another half an hour, we would have filled up the rest of the map with a bunch of icons. Other
Well,
thoughts from
can I
our
ask
group?
a question, Randolph?
Mhm.
Would you, because when I look at it at the map, I see that it's kind of from like, what is that, Prescott or maybe Mandela Parkway, over towards the port.
Yeah.
So would we say that's kind of like the focus, like an important focus area for environmental justice interventions?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's just a matter of the concentration because we see encampments everywhere. We see homeless everywhere. Even if you went throughout the neighborhoods, you would see it. But the concentrations, on the outskirts, onto the freeways, and again with the fires, the fires creating air quality instances and that sort of thing. It's kind of along the edges. And in the industrial areas and the thoroughfares. What we've said is that these thoroughfares, West Grand, Maritime, Frontage, all
San
have,
Pablo,
the
MLK.
sideshows and street racing and that sort of thing. So yeah, it is kind of on the and these are up here are highly residential neighborhoods up in Hoover.
Yes.
These others also, but where the residential neighborhoods intersect with the freeways. It's and before we move on, any other thoughts from the mapping group?
And one thing that I've failed to mention too is that we get often noise from the rail yards too. Sometime late night, early in the morning, there's a
Yeah,
lot of noise.
we don't have the quiet zone. We don't have a quiet zone policy for Amtrak or the freight services in the area.
Is that something that we can change?
Yeah, well, they have a quiet zone ordinance in the city of Richmond.
Oh,
We don't have a quiet zone ordinance here in Oakland.
Okay, I was wondering about that, Miss Margaret, because there's I guess they're picking up trash or something, but it starts at between 4 and 5 in the morning
I know.
every morning. And it's like boom, and they come up and down my street, and then they're over on 27th.
What is that?
I guess they're picking up like the big bins or whatever for the school, the kitchen place is over here,
Oh,
right by me.
okay. No,
And
let's talk about the train tracks, the quiet zone for the trains.
okay, well, I was talking about that noise from the trucks because it's very noisy when it's up and down my street to go over to 27th. And I'm not like 27th is more thorough, more of a thoroughfare. 26 is not a thoroughfare because 26 chops off in different places. But as sure as they're going over there, they're going to be on my block. And then you hear them, they're banging down the those drops. It's like it's booming. It will wake you up.
Yeah.
And this is 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And see, all of that wasn't supposed to be happening when they was talking about putting that kitchen in, but it's been like that since that kitchen has been there.
Yeah.
So is there some way that we can talk to somebody to get that mitigated? Because it is an issue. Because I don't like being woke up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I'm just laying down because I got so much other stuff going on around me.
Wow. All right. So we're going to take note of that. And for the policy folks, do you want to take the reins on the screen?
no. Well, Alicia, do you want to share your screen? My Zoom keeps
Okay.
crashing when I try and share my mural.
Okay. I can, but if you're going to be moving around, it might be easier if.
I can, I think, if it's not disabled.
Okay. Here, I'll go for it. You want me to do it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
So it looks like zoom into A2. The middle purple one. Yeah.
Okay, and so what I would say is that, I think that so there were some new participants tonight, and so, this is kind of a continuation of a meeting from last month. So there might have been a little bit of kind of like newness, so there it was like the comfort level to kind of jump in and start kind of expressing opinions was a little tough to overcome, but we did get some conversations happening, and we noted that actually one of the thoughts that Meet had was relative to the notion that the city of Oakland's environmental justice element should have a policy around strengthening or more stringent business permitting practices. The prompt said, well, what about prohibiting certain businesses, within a certain proximity of residential or whatnot? And Meet suggested that maybe there could be kind of like a phasing or kind of a zone where commercial uses kind of buffer industrial uses from residential. There was some discussion around, like making sure that those employees and people who are going to be visiting those businesses, those commercial businesses are, adequately, mitigated, environmental impacts are mitigated for them. And then talked about, what does the buffer mean? Is a buffer substantially meaningful and protective, whether it's 500, whether it's 1,000, if the trucks are still kind of traveling on local streets, and like, well, what is the buffer really from? I mean, is it like heavy metals or things like that? So kind of like understanding that the buffer itself is kind of in question unless we have a lot of information about what is being buffered. So I think though that we can definitely, talk about talking about locations for buffer zones and proximity, and having the city be really, more informed about where the buffers are and what they're buffering. So I think those are tangible recommendations. We dug in a little bit to the amortization, which means that some businesses are closed down because they are so impactful from a public health standpoint, in this context anyway. And that's where we kind of came into this, feeling like, oh, this is a new concept and I'm not sure what the trade-offs are and what the cost would be. But I think that there was a sentiment that stronger language should be included in the City of Oakland's environmental justice element so that we can make real meaningful change. And does anyone else want to add anything from the group? Thanks. Over to you, Beth, and your group.
Yes, Brian or David or anyone else, do you guys want to give a quick summary? Okay, so zoom out, Randolph, we're scooch over to the third group. Yep, okay, go to the truck, freight, and freeway policies one first, the middle one. Okay, woo. You might want to just go to the whole board so we can see our post-it notes. Does anyone want to give a summary of some of Colin, transportation expert? Are you on? And oops.
Hey, yeah, sure thing.
Go for it.
So yeah, just a brief summary is we talked about what kinds of policies to be included here, and wanted to make sure to reword 7.5 to focus on truck related, more so on truck routes rather than bike and ped facilities, since that's already kind of covered in the first one in 7.3. And we had some follow-up items too. I think Brian wanted to meet with Joe Wang and Michael Ford from OakDOT to see what we can do with, and then again, coordinating with planning and building to make sure that more language about truck routes is in the EJ element. But we wanted to get to the other topics here, but we didn't have time.
Yeah, we did a little bit on the other one, but I think since we'll open it up and see if folks have other comments, but then we have a short presentation on the survey results too.
Mhm.
So
Does anybody want to comment on the other groups? If the groups that you were not in, do you have any comments? No.
I thought there were some good ideas in the mapping exercise. There's some things that haven't been, like noise hasn't really been considered that much. We're sort of starting from the beginning. We list the kinds of noise that really wakes us up. Garbage trucks at 5 a.m. Do they have to be there at 5 a.m.? BART, in their refusal to do anything. I think railroad tracks are interesting when folks are saying all these things are around the perimeter. Well, railroad tracks enter the community at the perimeter, and then they cut all through the community. And this is railroads, and it's so complicated, but it's never actually had any focus. If we could get a city, port, state or federal kind of conversation going about these, basically they're unused railroad tracks. The railroads don't admit they're abandoned railroad sidings because they will never give up that property. But there should be something done about it because it is a significant destructive force in the community. Damages cars. I know multiple people have hit railroad tracks on their bicycles and broken wrists, shoulders, gotten concussions. I think that's a really key issue for urban development, especially for pedestrian bicycle access in the community.
We're going to take Miss Margaret before we move on to Alicia and the evaluation.
Well, Brian, if we're gonna talk about transportation, we got to talk about the global transportation issues of noise, smells, vibrations from that. So like for the BART, why is it here we are in 2023 and they still haven't tubed in the BART along 7th Street? But they want to do this Link 21 project, whereas we should be spending some money after 40-something years tubing in the noise as the BART leaving from downtown to go into San Francisco.
Writing it down.
All right. And we will.
This is not the first time. This is not the first time I said this in the public.
No. Lily?
I'm aware of some research division. CARB has a research division, and they are doing some studies on urban noise and the associated mental health stresses. So I am starting to think that there might be a way to uplift this in health equity in terms of air pollution, mental health stress, and just urban environments with the noise and the smells and the things you're speaking of, trying to connect it better and uplifting it also in health equity to kind of solidify a more multi-pronged approach.
That's a great suggestion. Lily, do you want to send us any info you have about that?
I am aware that the contract is still ongoing, so I don't have access to any published stuff yet, but
okay,
possibly I could look if there's previous studies.
Great.
Great. We're going to move on, and we may run just a little over because we want Alicia to get through the evaluation, and then we have one announcement also that we want to make. So let's go to Alicia.
Thanks, Randall. Okay, I'll try not to talk too fast, but still move through this presentation. So we wanted to make a habit of group reflection and reviewing progress towards our goals. We asked the steering committee to take a survey, and the slides you're about to see summarize the steering committee roles as context, the 2023 goals, and the survey results. In terms of the steering committee roles, the steering committee, as you all are aware, adopts and supports the goals and principles of the WOCAP in ensuring healthy air quality standards and enforcement in West Oakland, advises and provides direction to WOCAP, and ensures that the equity goals and issues are addressed. Next slide, please. And in terms of the steering committee responsibilities, we're hoping that you provide leadership, strategic guidance, vision, and oversight while having an active role in regularly scheduled meetings and communicating the WOCAP principles and activities to the general public, as well as helping us with recruitment. And you are all ambassadors for WOCAP as members of your respective organizations, church groups, neighborhoods. We're hoping that you're out there spreading the word, talking about issues of air quality and how to be active participants in making solutions happen. Next slide, please. And so we modified slightly the kind of approach for 2023 such that we could give the steering committee more of something to steer in terms of WOCAP implementation. We wanted to design meetings that are more productive and engaging for the steering committee. And we wanted to make sure that there's a mutual understanding of WOCAP related issues. So that's the two-way street. We learn from you, you learn from us, hopefully, and that we all both collectively engaging problem solving. Next slide, please. So on to the survey results. We have about a dozen slides that take you through the survey, and just, as the overview, we designed the survey to get a feel for how you all experience these monthly meetings. And also so that you would reflect on how you're doing at engaging in the meetings and outside of WOCAP. So we had about 6 responses. Was, you know, it's a start, okay? Over half or so were partner agencies. Oh, I'm sorry, Randolph, can you go to the next slide? I have slides open on my screen too. So yeah, so as you can see in the chart, that partner and agency participant respondents were, you know, the highest represented group of respondents. 1 or 2 worked in West Oakland, and 1 was a resident. Next slide, please. And so what we found when we asked about the various months, so we asked about the March steering committee, we asked about the April steering committee, and we asked about the May steering committee meeting. And we asked for each of those meetings, how did we do in developing mutual understanding of the issues? And we got a score from excellent to good, which made us feel good. We asked for each of those meetings how we did in engaging in problem solving, and there we got good to acceptable. So kind of sliding down in the evaluation a little bit. We asked about how engaging in meeting design, how an engaging meeting design was going, and we got, you know, generally good. And then opportunity to make decisions, and then we slid again into good to acceptable. Next slide, please. You know, there were some follow-up comments there that, you know, appreciating kind of having the meetings tied to specific WOCAP strategies, and wanting more information about, you know, kind of progress in pollution reduction. There was, you know, support for the tracking tool on the WOCAP website. You're making sure that, you know, all of these strategies are not being forgotten. Glad that the steering committee is being able to get more involved. And also the sentiment that from the agency kind of representative that it should really be community led, and so I'm not sure how to kind of like chime in and take up space in some ways. Next slide, please. And so we asked about whether or not you feel like you have the tools and resources to help and, you know, kind of participate. And the response there was somewhat. Okay, so that's certainly something that we want to expand and grow. And I think we can come back to this question after we run through the rest of the survey. So next slide, please. We asked whether or not you are participating in these meetings by either asking clarifying questions or sharing your opinions. And only 2 responses were yes. There were, you know, some responses, the majority of responses was, you know, I don't really know enough to respond, or I don't have enough time to process my question. Which is fair. I mean, we're talking about, you know, fairly complex topics. And then some of the responses were that the issues are outside of my purview, and I don't think I have enough knowledge to offer an opinion, or I tend to engage with topics that are directly related to my organization, which is not at every meeting. Okay, next slide. And so wanting to make sure that we are, you know, giving the steering committee more opportunities. This would also be a opportunity to kind of have conversation now, but I think if we can come back to this, let's come back to 54, Randolph.
And I'm also putting these questions in the chat, so if people have ideas, they can put them in the chat.
Good idea, thank you. And so next survey question was, do you participate in breakouts, Zoom polls, surveys, and other interactive activities during meetings? And I think that, you know, there was pretty good response rate saying that people always were participating. And also that, you know, that in some of the follow-up responses, they were more supportive of the small breakout groups. Like the responses were like, you know, I feel more comfortable to share and to talk in the small breakout groups. So that was good information for us. Excuse me, Randolph, can you advance a couple of slides? 55, yeah, sorry about that.
55.
There we go. So that's where we learned that, you know, the majority of people are participating in small breakout groups. And again, the follow-up was that people feel more comfortable talking and participating in those small groups. Next slide, please. Okay, so we asked about the barriers or challenges for your participation. And, you know, that Wednesdays are not ideal, the time of day is not super great. format is challenging, Zoom fatigue. So we can maybe talk about that eventually. Next slide, please. And then we asked, have you taken action to support WOCAP related initiatives? So for example, have you shared our enforcement flyer with your neighbors? The enforcement flyer was something we kind of generated after the March meeting. Have you made a complaint about illegal truck parking or idling? Have you emailed your elected officials about a WOCAP related policy? Have you attended a rally? Have you, so anyway, there were a bunch of, options to select from. And as you can see, there was some participation, but we definitely want to boost that, okay, in the future, if possible. And then next slide, thanks, Beto. Oh, can you go back one? Do you discuss WOCAP with your respective organizations? And so there was a pretty good response rate that people are doing that, so great. And next slide. And so we asked about, what changes could improve your experience at our steering committee meetings. And I say our as in our, all of us. And then there was responses about kind of looking ahead and more updates about what the Air District is doing specifically related to West Oakland as part of their core responsibilities, permitting of stationary sources, funding of air quality improvement projects, etc. And then, some, acknowledgement that there's room for improvement, but not exactly sure how. Next slide, please. And then we asked about the outreach methods, and there were responses related to positive responses related to being able to contact co-leads, so Air District staff, West Oakland EIP staff, and talk outside of meetings. Certainly the West Oakland website, the West Oakland EIP Environmental Indicator Project website was seen as a positive. Meeting follow-up emails also was a real good thing. And meeting announcements, very good too. And then the Eventbrite was, kind of scored as a fair ranking, so kind of slid a little bit there. Next slide. And so I know we're at 8, and so I think Beth was adding some of the questions in the chat. But I don't know. Does anybody want to? Did that generate anything for you? I hope hopefully the new steering committee members feel a little bit more, kind of rooted and grounded in what we are hoping to do here. And so hearing about the evaluation at the beginning of your time hopefully is a helpful thing. Does anyone, from
any feedback from our steering committees for members first? Agency folks?
Well, just a apology for not doing, I don't think I did the survey, and my apologies, I was away for part of that time. But I partly didn't do it because I couldn't remember back my impressions from the distant meeting. So if we're going to keep doing this, then I'll make a practice of recording those kinds of impressions so I can be better at it in the future.
Appreciate that.
And maybe
Colin?
we could either, evaluate each time or make the question more general, just like in general. And that, we tried to put information about each of those meetings in the survey so that you could see exactly what we talked about and everything like that, but fair enough.
Colin?
Yeah, that was helpful. I'm glad you did that. I just ran out of time, sorry.
No problem. Colin?
Yeah, thanks. Just a logistical thing with the Eventbrite and calendar invitations. I think I got the wrong. Well, there's a different Zoom link in the calendar invite versus the Eventbrite page. And it took me a while to get to the meeting. So just want to ask for some more consistency in which platform you choose to invite folks on.
Yeah, we got to apologize for that. We were trying to take some precautionary measures for the Zoom bomber that we had last time. And so we decided to pick a new link, and we are still sorting that out. So we'll.
Can I just clarify one thing too about the Google Calendar invite that people might still have on their calendars? if you are one of the folks who has a calendar invite on your Google Calendar that is from the scwestoakland@gmail account, that is a defunct meeting and that has the old link in it. And I think it's a holdover on a number of folks' calendars. So if you have that on your calendar, you should delete that.
Yeah.
Because that's, I think, the cause of a lot of this confusion.
Yeah, we deleted it on this side, but it may not have deleted it on your side, and you'll be getting a new link. Again, to avoid Zoom bombers, you'll be getting a new link.
Yeah,
So
the
it will not
Eventbrite
be-
link gets updated gets checked and updated with every meeting. So that that will always be the most accurate reflection. So if
And
you're
on
in
the
doubt,
website. And on
yeah.
the website. When in doubt, go to the website.
Got it. Thank you.
Great. All right. Thanks. We've got a couple of announcements, and then we've got
Can
Julia.
I just ask one question right off? We had only sent the survey to the steering committee members, which is a smaller group, and we closed it so we would have results. If people do people want to fill out the survey? We're happy to send it out to everyone and kind of reopen it. Because of course we always want your feedback. But if people kind of feel fine, like they didn't miss out on the survey party, we can close it and send out another survey, in 6 months again.
So I'm gonna do, for anybody who did not sign in, please sign in, meeting attendees. And I'm gonna put in this is a meeting attendee sign-in sheet, and you can always put those requests in there. And then I am going to, for any of the steering committee members who did not sign in, please sign in. You good, Beth? No, I'm saying you're good. Oh, okay. I'm looking at you like you can see me. Okay, so we've got a couple of announcements, and then we've got Julia, who's going to announce something. We're going to go to Meet. Yes, we're going to go to Meet first for a couple of Juneteenth events.
Yeah, so there's a annual Juneteenth celebration happening on 24th, and I'm sharing that in the chat as well, the flyer. But so the festivities kind of begin around 11 a.m. to like 6. And we were hoping that we can have some steering committee members to hang out at the table where WOCAP is going to be tabling. It's also an opportunity for you all to see Miss Margaret being honored at around 2 p.m., I believe, during the community award ceremony for the work which she's been doing historically. So it's a great way to be plugged into the community and hang out with me. So I just want to extend an invitation to the steering committee members to come for this event.
Where's the event going to be held, Meet? Is it at the one on Brockhurst?
Yeah,
Yes.
this one is
Yes.
Brockhurst
Okay.
between Market and San Pablo. And
Okay,
then this one
right,
says
okay.
32nd and Market
Okay.
to San Pablo on Brockhurst. So that's go where all the
Okay,
people.
thank you. I was just double checking.
Yeah, where all the
Okay.
people are. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Follow the people.
Wait, look, I just wanted to know if it's the one I was going to be at. So thank you.
Gotcha. And
Mhm.
and it is the one that you'll be at, correct?
Yeah, I
Yes.
have 2 other groups that's going to be there.
Yes.
It's just
well,
one of me. We'll figure it out.
we'll see you there. All right, Julia.
Hi, everybody. This is Julia from the California Air Resources Board. So just a quick announcement on our blueprint update. So for those that aren't aware of what the blueprint is, it's the guidance document that covers the requirements and general strategy for implementing this program. And we're in the middle of updating that document. And thank you for whoever put the link in the chat. So just the announcement here is that we put out a draft part 1, which is that 5-year strategy. So what is the next 5 years of the program going to look like? There's a link there to submit any public comments. Part 2 will be coming out later this month, and we don't have a website yet to register, but I'll pass it around once we have that for our public workshops on the draft blueprint, which will be on July 7th, 11th, and then the one on the 18th will be in Spanish. And the draft blueprint will also be discussed at the next AB 617 consultation group meeting on June 28th. And so what this document means for this group is, this talks about the guidance around how this program functions. And so particularly topics like tracking progress, accountability, transparency in the program, funding transparency. A lot of those topics are all ones that end up in this document. And so those are the kinds of things that that I think are relevant to this group that that this document talks about. So that was my announcement. And please reach out to me if you all have any questions about this process or this program or this document in general.
Great, thanks. Can you put your contact information in the
Yes, I will do
chat,
that right
please?
now. Yes.
And with that,
I have my hand up.
oh, I'm sorry.
As one of the consultation members, I've read the draft, and I can say that this is the first time the draft including race, talks about redlining, which they didn't do in the beginning. They also talking about discrimination. There's also sections of it that's talking about civil rights, and which they had not done before. Only with some of the stuff came from the coaching and us presenting. That was Richard Grow and I participated in the overall writing of this update of the blueprint. So this blueprint has covering a lot of things that the original blueprint wouldn't even talk about. So this blueprint is more about those things that have impacted the communities. Also, it even goes into the historical things about how land has been used, and who has had the privilege to have land and not have land, and also why is that certain communities have been impacted through pollution of air, water, and soil, which they never did do before.
That's great. And David?
Is just a question. Am I right? We're having a July meeting, but not an August meeting?
Just the opposite. No July, and then back in August.
Okay, anybody know the date in August, Jet?
First Wednesday.
August will be the 2nd.
Okay.
All right. And with that, I want to thank the steering committee members, our presenters. Thank you for everybody who attended. You can reach out to EIP with any additional questions. And with that, we hope to see you at the Juneteenth Festival.
Great job, Randolph.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Everyone.
Right.
Good
Good night, everyone. Night.